Welcome to the G2K podcast. This is episode number 10, and I am here with my good friend Tanya. Secret handshake. What's up?
We just did that 2
Yeah,
minutes ago.
we just practiced, rehearsed.
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate your time.
It's an honor. It's my first podcast.
It's
so
an
super
honor
excited.
to have you on this podcast, being your first. So what's up?
Not much. Just being busy.
Busy. So I met you approximately, how long ago? I want to say
Like 2 years?
2 years or so. And you're part of the crew of friends.
Yeah.
Of I guess Jason, one of my good buddies. He was on episode 1 for people that I guess eventually people are going to be able to make connections as far as who's been on what podcast and how you guys are all associated with one another.
Just in one big group.
Yeah.
Friends.
So
Yeah.
whereabouts are you from originally?
From Vancouver.
Vancouver. So were you born there?
I was.
Okay.
I should think about that for a second.
So
I was,
what do they call people that are born in? Because in Toronto they're called Torontonians, I guess.
Vancouverites.
Vancouverites.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I think I've been here now for almost a decade, which is a really long time.
Right.
But I think, I feel really at home here. So it's been good. It's been good.
10 years. What brought you to Toronto from Vancouver?
So basically, I went to school here.
Okay.
So I first moved here to go to McMaster, actually.
For which program?
I was in communications.
Okay.
So I was there for 2 years, and I lived in Hamilton for 2 years. I don't know if you've ever
I've been in Hamilton.
It's a very quiet city.
It is.
So I went there for 2 years, and then the whole time I was there, I really just wanted to move to Toronto. That it's always where I've kind of wanted to be. And a few of my close friends also lived in Toronto. A few of them went to Ryerson and U of T as well. So it was always kind of where I wanted to be. So I transferred to Ryerson after 2 years at McMaster.
Nice.
And have just been here ever since. Never left.
2 years in Hamilton. We actually, one of my buddies used to go to McMaster, and we used to go visit him every once in a while. And we'd go to Hess Village.
Oh yeah. Good time.
Yeah, that's the nightlife scene. But yeah, it's pretty. I guess Hamilton's downtown and everything is very small in comparison to Toronto.
It was, yeah. And I think looking back, I was really young. Like looking back, I moved to like Ontario when I was 18. So I think those 2 years that I was there was just like, I felt really young, and I felt like I had so much to learn. And so, I don't know, it was kind of like, I want to say like it was kind of a lonely time living there.
Were you with your family, or were you on your own this entire time?
No, I was completely on my own.
Okay. So you left Vancouver on your own?
Well,
when you came to Canada? To Hamilton.
Yeah, well, my dad came with me.
Okay.
Like, he helped me move into res, like at McMaster. So I did have family, and I had my family here come help. But it just, after that, I feel like I was by myself.
So the dolo mode?
Yeah. So it's kind of, it's hard being really young, and still, I thought, at the time, looking back, like, that I was ready to move and be on my own. But I think now in hindsight, I feel like I was really young. And when I did get there, I felt like I didn't know anyone. And it, you do have, the university and people around you, but it definitely is such a jarring experience.
That probably led to a lot of self-discovery, right? Growth-wise. Because nowadays, I don't know, like, for example, if you're living with your parents and you have everything easy, it's hard to grow and discover who you are as a person, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So I feel like that's beneficial in the sense if you're at a young age and you step out of that comfort zone and out of the safety of being in the nest, essentially.
Exactly.
You realize how important it is to be independent and how things are in real life. So
yeah, I think the hardest part was I was totally ready to move, and I was in my head at the time, I thought I was really ready, and then when I got here to Ontario, I realized like just how kind of hard it is being on your own, and just little things too, and being
So what were
used
the
to
biggest
being...
challenges when you moved
I think
to Toronto from Hamilton?
Toronto. From Hamilton.
Yeah.
Well, I think moving to Toronto from Hamilton, it was
An easier transition, okay.
Because I moved in actually with some of my good friends.
Okay.
And so we shared a place, but yeah, I think the hardest part was moving from like BC to Hamilton.
Got it.
And then moving to Toronto was actually really fun. Lots of fun times, and I think because I moved to Ryerson, I felt really supported, and I felt like I really belonged at the school, and I really just like vibe with everyone. And so I think I still look back at my time at Ryerson, and I'm always just, every time I look back, I get happy like thinking about it, because it was a really good time in my life. And
nice. So which industry are you in, if you were to describe career path? I guess after Ryerson, where did you end up?
So after Ryerson, I took English and Communications at Ryerson. And I think the best thing about going to Ryerson was really being around people in a creative industry. And when I was at Ryerson, I actually applied to a few internships during my second year, and was lucky enough to get an internship at a pretty big fashion magazine.
Nice.
And I was able to do that kind of part-time during my second and kind of third year of university. And it was an amazing experience, and then I got a few other internships after that. But I think from that experience I just learned so much, and it was a really cool experience just to be in that like environment. And it was something I'd always wanted to do, is to work like in especially the beauty editorial space. And I think even back then, like I would always, like when I was younger, be reading kind of these magazines and always seeing myself, hopefully one day be in that environment. It's a pretty surreal thing to actually kind of be there and experience it. And I'm just really grateful to have a lot of amazing mentors in that industry. And even
so these mentors were found while you were doing the internships, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
So a lot of them were the editors that I worked for. And I'm actually still in touch with a lot of them today, which is really awesome. And they've been super supportive over the years. And I think now it's been, I think, at least 8 years or 7, maybe 7 years since like I worked for them, and they're still super supportive. But it was like such an amazing experience. And I just even remember they would give me opportunities to like cover Fashion Week backstage and interview, some of like the makeup artists and some designers. And it was such a crazy experience to be like 19 or 20 or 21. And being able to, meet designers and like interview like, really amazing people at such a young age. So that was a really awesome experience. So back to your question, that I guess my industry when I started was in the like beauty editorial, fashion editorial space, interning and as a writer as well. So doing that, and I was lucky enough to actually be hired by one of the magazines I interned for. And so I worked in like digital content for a while as their writer, and I covered a lot of shows, same thing, like a lot of fashion weeks. Also did a lot of interviews and did a lot of behind the scenes stuff on shoots, helping out, and doing most of like the digital content online for like the beauty stuff. So it was really cool. This was still during like when I was in school as well, like when I interned. Right. I was working.
Was it after you graduated? It was during?
So during university, I worked as an intern part-time, and then after I finished that, like after I graduated, I kind of got hired on to be a writer.
That's dope.
But it was crazy because I remember looking back, and at one point I was working like 4 jobs. Because I remember like I was working like a beauty job, and I like did makeup, and I would do like weddings and stuff on weekends, and then I would still be in school, and then I would also intern, and I would do like some writing on the side. So sometimes I'd wake up at like 5 a.m. just to like.
So were you always this disciplined? Because I know you as like in our group of friends, you're one of those people that is, I can tell, you're a go-getter.
Oh,
like
thanks.
You execute and initiate whatever it is that you put your mind to.
Thanks,
but what brought about that, I guess, approach to life? Like, what was the catalyst, or were you always like that? Like upbringing, nature, nurture?
Yeah, I think for me, my dad is the biggest, and my mom, but I think for me growing up, my dad has always really instilled this work ethic in me. I think even from a really young age, like my first job was actually, you'll never guess this, but my first job was at McDonald's, and I think I was 13 at the time, which is
we all have to
super young.
Somewhere.
But I remember, I think I was 13, and I remember at the time you couldn't even work like legally, I think, or it was legal, but you couldn't get paid legally minimum wage. So what I had to do was I asked my dad to like write a letter saying that he would allow me to work at like the job, and then they would pay me, but they couldn't pay me like legally like minimum wage, I think. So they paid me under minimum wage.
Jeez.
And it was like, at the time I feel like it was like $6 an hour.
Which is unheard of in today's
which is unheard of, but it's crazy because I was like 13, and it was a 24-hour McDonald's.
Oh boy.
So I remember having to work like overnight shifts sometimes, and it was super fun because everyone was really young, and I think a lot of people were in high school, and overnight we would just like have a lot of fun, and you
probably came across crazy people in that time too.
It actually wasn't too bad because I think the area we were in was very suburban, and it was very quiet. So this is back in BC.
Got it. Yeah, downtown, if you go to the McDonald's after hours, it's a shit show and a half.
Not suggest that to anyone who's young, who's 13.
Right. So your dad instilled willpower and discipline, and like, in what sense though? Like.
Yeah, I think my dad, he just always has been about like values and just working really hard, and being able to like to work for something and to build your own kind of path, and he's just always been very disciplined. And I remember like even get like asking for allowance sometimes was like a big thing. Like he would make me like write out little contracts saying like I like took out $20 or whatever, and I have to like repay him. And like little things like that.
Getting
I
into
feel
that
like
business mindset from a young age.
And
it's interesting.
I think also my dad's an entrepreneur.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, and I would say like he's a self-made entrepreneur for sure.
Nice.
Like he has, he started in Manila, and so I think he's grown his business himself as well. But I think for like that was from a young age, just seeing like him work really hard. And I remember when I was younger, just he had a home office too, so I would always be in that home office, and just it was really cute. I had this kind of area where it was like my own little desk, and he had his desk, and when he would be working, I would just see like how hard he worked day in, day out. And yeah, I think like kind of subconsciously that instilled this like just seeing your parents work really hard, and seeing that entrepreneur mindset, I think from a young age really helped me with work ethic and mindset.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So thanks, Dad.
Yeah, shout out to all the Papa Dukes out there that are inspiring, and well, even Mama Dukes as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's awesome. Like having, I guess, a parental figure. That's like one of the most important idols, you can call them. When you're young, you look up to these adults that take care of you.
For sure.
And not a lot of people have that opportunity to learn from their parents in that regard. So it's a blessing.
I'm really grateful for that, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what about now at this moment? I know you launched your own. So you went the entrepreneur route.
I did, yes. So I just actually recently launched a beauty brand. So it's called Metange Beauty, METANGE.
Nice. I'll put the links up in the descriptions and Instagrams too. I'm not that famous yet, or the reach is not too, but eventually, as time goes, that's not the point, I guess. But
it's not. I feel like I'm really grateful for any kind of shout out exposure. Exactly.
There you go.
So I launched that, and it's a brand that's a new beauty concept, I would say, because it's not just, I would categorize it as just a skincare brand or just a beauty brand or anything like that. I really feel like it is a new concept and something I've been working on for about 3 years now. And it's something that I'm super excited about, and it's based actually on traditional Chinese medicine and on Eastern healing, and specifically on traditional Chinese medicine and this massage technique called gua sha.
Okay.
Or gua sha, you can say it both ways. But
gua sha or gua sha?
Exactly. So I personally say gua sha, but you can say it either way, and it's essentially based on traditional Chinese medicine and massaging the skin using usually a stone tool. So it can be either made from jade, or in my case, the stone tool is made from obsidian stone.
Obsidian stone.
So it's really based on that, and it's really about healing, I think, at the end of the day.
So what brought about the inspiration to launch your own beauty, skincare, modern product?
That's a really good question, because I feel like I've been on kind of a journey I feel like that is a really a question that is a long has a long answer. But basically, just I think working in the industry, like the beauty and skincare cosmetic space for like just over 7 years, I think I've seen a lot of things related to beauty and skincare and wellness, and I think seeing all those things, really for so long I've been wanting to kind of create my own brand and my own kind of vision for to start, and I think it really, so back to the question. What made me want to start it, or
what inspired you, and what led you to like executing on like, you know what, let's do this. Because a lot of people, I guess, they have these ideas that float in their head, but they never actually initiate. I guess you had that role model in your life to give you that entrepreneurial edge, but at the same time, what was the catalyst where you're like, all right, let's do this?
I think the main moment in my life that I feel like changed my entire life was when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, which was about 3 years ago. And at the time I was actually working for a beauty brand, and I was working full time, and I think that moment just changed everything for me, because I was actually like hospitalized, and I was completely healthy before that point, no health problems, never been hospitalized, and then all of a sudden I just kept on having these symptoms, and my stomach really hurt. I couldn't eat, I was in a lot of pain, and all of a sudden, like I was actually at work, I remember this, and I just couldn't like stand up, and I just felt so dizzy, and after that I ended up going home that day, and early, and I remember just feeling really sick that day, and I felt really, really sick, and I ended up just going to the hospital like that day, because I felt just terrible. So that was when I was in the hospital, and I was like diagnosed for an autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis, which is actually similar to Crohn's disease. I don't know if you're familiar with Crohn's disease, but it actually is a digestive issue. So
it's literally when your immune system is attacking the bacteria in your intestines, and I guess treating it as if it was like bad bacteria, but it's your gut flora and everything is imbalanced.
Yeah. So basically, there's kind of little, if you think of the digestive system, there's actually, for colitis, there's little kind of ulcers when in your digestive tract. So essentially when you can't digest food,
Right.
when it just really hurts, right? Because if you think of like little cuts and when food is coming through,
and
like
those cuts are from your immune system breaking apart pieces of your intestine.
Like it's kind of the way the doctor explained it to me the very first time. He was like, just think of your body like attacking itself,
Right.
and it's your own immune system that can't digest food or whatever. So I just remember being in the hospital, like out of nowhere. I remember that very first time I was hospitalized. It was Thanksgiving weekend, and I just remember it being so hard because just spending Thanksgiving in the hospital and having, you know, Thanksgiving dinner there was really hard. But yeah.
So when you were at the hospital, like what was the procedure? What happened essentially? Like when you went there, you were just like, okay, my stomach hurts, like, and then what?
Yeah, I ended up going to the ER, and I didn't know what was wrong with me, honestly. I thought it was either I had like some sort of like food poisoning or something. Like they actually didn't even know at first too. So the thing with getting checked into the ER is they run a whole bunch of tests on you that take quite a long time. So for me, I didn't even know what I had until maybe like 4 days in, 3-4 days in, because
and you were at the hospital the entire duration?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So they were just running tests and doing like x-rays, stuff like that, and bringing in different specialists to see. And I remember one of the doctors, they came in and they were like, when they diagnosed me, she was like, oh, the good news is we checked and you don't have cancer, which is good. And for me, in my head, I didn't even think that was
right. I was just gonna ask you, did they think that was
that was a thing? And so I just remember like being like shell shocked when she told me that, because I was like, what do you mean? Like I thought I had like food poisoning. Like why are you testing me for cancer, right?
Right.
And then she was like, but the good news is you do have an autoimmune disease and you're gonna be on medication for life. And at the time,
that's great. Thanks.
And I was like, oh, like obviously,
it's
like
a
now,
shock,
like obviously.
Well, yeah, at the moment your universe probably flips upside down.
But in the moment I was just like what is going on?
Right.
You know, I came into the hospital like no health problems at all, and all of a sudden the doctor's telling me that I have an autoimmune disease that it also doesn't have a cure. So, you can be on medication for it, but and you can most definitely go into remission, which means that the symptoms don't come back, and you can find a medication that works for you, and which is what I'm on right now. Is I still have medication for it, and thankfully.
So this is something you take on the daily to control your immune system? Okay.
Exactly, and I think also just being mindful of what you're eating, and for me especially, just making a few dietary changes.
So your entire diet's completely different now, right? So we've discussed this before. Someone in my family, my middle brother, he got diagnosed with pretty much the same thing, but he's in the early stages where, but he completely switched his entire diet and everything, and I think they are getting him to be on that medication as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I saw firsthand like how much of an impact it has on someone's life, because realizing that you can't have the freedom to eat whatever you want, and like there's, when you say you have a disease, it sounds more dramatic than it is, but
for a long time too, I remember I couldn't even say that. Like I couldn't say the words. Like I couldn't even say I have an autoimmune disease. Like I would always tell people it's a condition. And, but I think now, like that I'm used to it, like I can call it that. But
so even with my brother now, he's like turning around in the sense where he's becoming a lot more appreciative of, I guess, like, because it wakes you up, right? Because you think everything is all fine and dandy, and then life is like, you know what? Yeah. I'm gonna give you this card. What do you think? Yeah. And then how you take it from there, it's like up to the person ultimately, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But I think that answers like a bit.
That's a pretty
that's the moment.
deep
Yeah.
and it just goes to show like sometimes you need an event that shakes up your reality in that sense, and then it leads you to do great things.
Yeah. I
yeah.
actually, like, I look back and I am really grateful for that moment
Right.
because it taught me so much, and even that the whole like process of that just completely changed my entire mindset. And
Right.
you know, I realized that without your health, you can't accomplish anything you want to, right? And you can't. Your health is everything. If you're not in good health, you can't, you know, help anyone else, essentially.
Right. And it's so easy to take for granted when there's nothing going on, right?
Exactly.
It's the same thing as like when you get a cold or something, you kind of reminisce of the time like your nose was not running and like, you're not coughing.
Yeah.
But then we get into that habit of once you're healthy again, it's like, you know what? Like,
yeah.
That's not something we focus on. But,
yeah.
So now, 3 years after that, now everything's fine. You launch your company and all that. So in terms of the transition of how did you overcome being in that state of mind and like kind of accepting things for how they were, and then becoming more, I guess, positive and executing like the launch of a company almost, right?
Yeah, I think for me, that pivotal kind of moment really changed my whole life, and it really led me to the concept of my brand now. And at the time, I had this idea to start it, and I really kind of put it on the back burner, and I didn't really know what area to kind of focus on. And so I had this idea of a business, but I never really thought, like, pursued it seriously until
So was it a question of the fear of executing due to unknown, or what? So that was the reason, or?
I think it was also just not having that push. And you know when like you're not sometimes pushed to do something, you're kind of just like coasting.
So it's funny you mentioned that, because I'm starting to realize with like, I don't know, a lot of stuff and plans and that I'm executing on my end. If you don't get that push and it never comes, you're never really going to start anything. But then realizing that and just being like, fuck it, I'm going to execute, knowing that that push might not come, it changes your entire perception of just putting things into motion, right?
Yeah.
So that just goes to show, it's like sometimes, I don't know, I've mentioned this on a lot of other podcasts as well, where we all have infinite potential in terms of like achieving greatness and like becoming the strongest versions of ourselves. But a lot of times we're just sitting around waiting for the right moment. But in reality, that moment's never going to come. And then sometimes something like this happens and it kind of shakes you. It's like, yo, what if something worse happened or whatever? It's like my life is not infinite. The timeline is not ongoing forever.
Right, yeah.
And then when you come to that understanding and awareness and realization, you're able to, I don't know, put things into perspective and then take the steps necessary and not approach things from a fear-based mindset. Because like we even talked about, I don't know, equipment for the setup or whatever. It's like sometimes we feel like we want to be perfectionists, or we're afraid of what if we fail, what if I do this, but that's besides the point. And then unfortunately, like probably there's a lot of people that regret not doing things that they wish they had when they were younger.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But no, that's a pretty inspiring story in terms of how you came about launching this brand.
Thanks. But yeah, I think like we were talking about with the equipment and the podcast, I was telling Masood that I think it's just like props to you for starting this podcast, because I feel like so many times it's just starting, that's the hard part. And I think even if something isn't perfect or you don't have everything planned out, like just the act of starting something and putting it out there,
that's how you learn and evolve and grow and level up, right?
Exactly,
and then also surrounding yourself with people that are motivating and inspirational and help you along the way is the key too. If you're doing, like, we never do anything on our own necessarily. Like you always have people to, I don't know, look up to, or people that help you or aid you. Like for example, like these microphones I got as a birthday gift from Jason.
Oh, nice.
Right? And like that's a very thoughtful gift, and like he's one of the, like I wouldn't be doing this, well I would have, but I mean timing would have been off or whatever. Like he kind of gave me a little bit of a boost in terms of, all right, like now I have one less excuse to execute this vision that I have.
Yeah, that's so thoughtful of him.
But yeah, so things like that, right?
Yeah.
It's like having that support system, having a team, being around a community that inspires and motivates you and pushes you towards achieving these dreams that you have, and just taking it from your headspace and manifesting it into like existence and then infinite potential. Yeah.
That's so important to like the energy around you too, and I don't know if you've heard of that quote that if your friends aren't inspiring you, then you need a new circle.
Yeah, you need new friends.
And you do, yeah, exactly. Because I think it's so true, and I think everyone, all of my friends in my life, like including you, everyone inspires me, and I think just living your guys' like true, authentic kind of path and pursuing whatever it is that makes you happy and whatever it is, you know, makes you really passionate is just so inspiring to me. And I think that energy is really infectious, right?
It is.
When you are around people who are so passionate and who are also very positive, because I think
they're like everyone we know in our community, we enjoy what we do. We're not like stressed and depressed and be like, fuck, so much going on.
Yeah, all this work.
All this work.
Yeah. No, I think we're all like very like positive and supportive too, which is really cool. And everyone, we know how to have fun too.
Yeah, work hard, play hard, enjoy life, live in the present moment.
Yeah, but I do think that is really important though, is that, you know, that similar mindset of being really positive and having that energy around you, because it really, it's so hard to fall into like a very negative environment, you know, where people are, you know, talking down or even on themselves. And I think if you're around people who have that energy, it's so easy to get caught up in it.
It does affect you. It's contagious, right? So usually I come across some people that do complain about those type of people, or are surrounded in those situations, or are that type of person, right? And usually if you don't have direct influence on that person, or you can't, you can show them an alternate perspective of how to see things, but I guess keeping a distance away, because energy does rub off on you, right? So that's very important.
Energy is everything.
Energy is everything. Vibes don't lie.
Yeah. Don't lie.
And what are vibes? Like our vibration. Energy, right? Our cells all vibrate at a certain frequency. Like
every thought is a vibration. I recently kind of was reading into this, but basically speaking too is a vibration.
Our vocal cords are vibrating, making sounds that are interpreted by our minds, which is like a whole bunch of neurons that are connected, but in a cellular level there's cells that are vibrating, which is crazy when you think about it. And then we emit this electromagnetic field, which is like considered, like, I'm reading a book by I'm almost done, Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural, and he talks about how everybody does have an aura, which is like an electromagnetic field, and if someone's depressed, for example, their frequency and their cellular vibration is different from someone who's positive and loving. And I definitely feel like that's something that correlates to like when you meet someone and you're like, I like this person, versus being like, this person gives me a bad gut feeling, I don't know why.
It's also
but it's pretty crazy when you look into that kind of stuff, and it's true. Like, and the more you live through life, and the more you kind of be more present and aware of these things, you realize how true it can be. And science and stuff like that is kind of catching up to that level of trying to understand. Okay, all this meditation or whatever it is in terms of the mind and the body, there's something to this, like the placebo effect, all that kind of stuff. Like, what's going on? So it's cool to see how the science and the mumbo jumbo kind of thing has started to overlap in a way where
and even, I don't know if you've ever seen that IKEA commercial where they talk to the plants.
No, I haven't.
Really? Okay, I have to show you this. So basically they did a study where there were like 2 plants, and every day they would have 2 different groups of people, I think, come and talk to each plant. And so for one plant, every day they would say something really negative and to the plant.
What would you tell a plant that's negative?
You're not looking too green today.
You're not too green today.
Like stuff like that though, that they would just say like, oh, you're ugly or something like that, or things that you would say to,
It's
know,
like,
people
you
would
piece
say.
of shit plant. Fuck you.
This leaf is out of place. You're doing a bad job.
And then the other one, they give it love, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
and the other plant, they talk to it every day and say, oh, like you look beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like very positive kind of affirmations for the plant. And so I know like it sounds out there and silly,
Right.
but like at the end of the study, they actually found that the plant that was being talked to positively was actually grew more and like actually like was thriving versus the plant who they were talking negative to.
The demeaned plant. The poor bullied plant.
The plant. I think it died or something.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Damn.
So it's crazy, like whenever I think of, you know, speaking and and how you speak to yourself and how you speak to other people, I always remember that study because I'm like, it's not like, it actually does have energy, like our words, right?
Right. Well, even the train of thought and from a mindful perspective, like a mindset perspective, if you wake up every morning and you're like, I got this, like I love my life, everything is blessed, like more of it appreciate the choices you're gonna make throughout the day based off of how your perception of reality is set. Your entire trajectory in life is going to be shifted towards one that has positive outcomes versus being like, oh fuck, I have to go to work and like I have to do this, oh fuck, like that negative, obviously it's going to be harder to come out of that, but that's a pretty dope study. I'll have to look into that. I've actually seen another one. It's a Japanese one where they do it with I think it's rice,
really?
Sprouts, and with elementary school kids. Same thing. The one that receives the negative treatment rots, and then the other one sprouts.
Really, for rice?
For
so
rice.
Cool. I have to look into that.
All that kind of stuff exists. I feel like technology is going to reach a point where we'll be able to measure those type of things. Whereas at the moment, it's some stuff is still kind of woo-woo. And even in Chinese medicine, when it comes to like, I don't know, the meridians and like the energy centers, like chakras, all that kind of stuff. When it comes to Western medicine, all that kind of stuff, it's like, that's bullshit. But there's so many commonalities and similarities and like different cultural traditions and like their belief systems where it's like there must be something there. Like they're not all in sync making up bullshit. In regards to, I don't know, like your third eye or all that kind of stuff.
No, it's interesting that you did bring that up because that's what I love talking about too.
Okay.
And I find that for like, everyone obviously has different beliefs, but for me, I think traditional Chinese medicine has like actually helped my life and just dealing with, you know, having an autoimmune disease. And the reason why actually I like got into gua sha was because when I was in the hospital, the first time and the other times after that, but they put me on like this steroid medication through an IV, and essentially it's called prednisone. Okay. And one of the side effects is it's actually called moon face.
Moon face.
Moon face. So if you're watching, you can Google prednisone moon face. And essentially your face just like kind of swells up like as a result of the medication. And like you retain a lot of water in your face. Okay. So that happened to me, and for like I was just so upset because it's something that you can't control, right? And you're on this medication that is essentially helping your life and making you feel better, but at the same time there's so many, you know, crazy side effects. So I remember at the time I was on so much medication already that I didn't want to go on more medication, you know, for it. So I was really just, you know, Googling natural ways on how to get rid of like swelling and whatever. And I'd always heard about like jade rollers, and I don't know if you know this term, but
jade rollers.
It's a guy.
I am not familiar with jade rollers. Are those like light green? Okay.
Yeah. So you'll probably see them like on Instagram, but they look like rollers.
Right.
So it's a similar concept to like gua sha, which is like for like facial gua sha in the sense that it does hit those acupressure points. Okay. But that's the reason why I kind of delved deeper into like researching about it, is because I wanted to it was more for myself to find a natural way on how to get rid of like this swelling and this tension like in my jaw from just like stress and overall, it really also feels great doing it, and just like as a self massage, it's really de-stressing. And so that's how I like came across it to begin with, was because of a need, like being on this medication. So I found it does work. Like traditional Chinese medicine, you know, it does really work, and I still use it today. And even, you know, I remember like growing up, because I'm Chinese, so I'm Chinese and Filipino as well.
Okay.
So, but growing up, my parents, especially like my dad, he loved like making these soups, and he, like, we have like a Chinese medicine practitioner like in our family, that our family goes to. So like I've kind of grown up with this, but I never like before kind of resonated with it. I always thought it was like, oh, like, you know, there's Western medicine and that works for a reason, you know.
Right.
But I think it wasn't until I was diagnosed with this autoimmune disease that because I was on so much like Western medicine already, like I just felt like I needed something natural, and I wanted to it kind of brings you back to the roots as well, like, for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually went to Chinese medicine.
Really?
I guess like a Chinese doctor where they have all the medications and stuff like that. But it's like organic roots and stuff.
Yeah.
I went in, I forgot what I went in for, but he did like a body scan, and then he looked at my tongue. And he's like, "You're too stressed." And I was like, "No, I'm not."
Really? You're stressed?
This was like maybe 7
You're like
years.
the most zen
so
person.
8 years ago, before I started my, I guess, zen journey. And but I remember he just looked at my tongue. He's like, "Yeah, you think too much. You're too stressed." I'm like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "Yeah,
my tongue's lying.
Yeah, my tongue's lying to you." But yeah, when it comes to that kind of stuff, there's centuries of, I guess, research and experience that they have, that they apply to all these type of things, like even acupuncture and all that kind of stuff. There's a reason why it's so popular.
And like gua sha is also, it's basically acupuncture but with a stone instead of like a needle, if you think about it that way. So it works the same way. Like when you hit those points, it does kind of those things like
So are you familiar with all the points in the body? How many points are there?
I was like, no. But I'm mostly familiar with like the
because I've seen a chart, and when it comes to the meridian points, there's a lot.
It's really cool though, because like especially on your hands and feet, like points on your hands and on your feet actually relate to different like organs.
I've seen that.
Like there's like this area for like stomach, right? And so if there's an area like an acupressure massage, like if one area is tender, then it means that there's something wrong with,
That's interesting.
Which is really cool. So, but even just like the whole thing about energy, and I think in traditional Chinese medicine, it's a lot about qi, right? Which is like the energy, and like yin and yang, and like I really love that, like even just principle of like that concept of the masculine and the feminine energies. And I think it's really interesting to
balancing
dive
everything out, right? We were talking about that earlier in terms of everything is, I guess, getting it synchronized and balanced.
Yeah,
like that's very aligned chakras, aligned. But that's very important, right? Because sometimes we get pulled into one direction in life, and we forget about other things that are necessary, right?
And chakras too, I think, are really interesting, because I'm just starting to get, I think you could probably tell me a bit more about chakras and stuff, but I think it's really interesting how different chakras are actually similar. So basically, like I was reading that the chakra of like receiving is the same, it's all like the same energy, right? Like for love, and also like even like finance, right? So that energy of like abundance.
Yeah, so from what I've read so far and like experience and whatnot, in terms of, so there's like the root one, and there's one in the navel, there's your heart chakra, your stomach chakra, throat chakra, third eye, crown chakra. And then each of those, depending on which, I guess the way they describe it is people resonate in specific chakras, where if you're aligned, your energy is flowing all the way throughout. But sometimes we have blocked chakras. So if, for example, if you're stuck in your root chakra, your desires are going to be very like egotistical, just primal in a way, where you just want to like for men, for example, like media these days, chasing big booties and whatever. That's like the lowest vibration, right? Because you're stuck in your root chakra. And then like opening up the other chakras, when you open up to your heart chakra, for example, you're becoming more loving and open and accepting and all that. And then, so even in the book that I'm reading, the Becoming Supernatural, he talks about like as soon as you start opening and becoming, awakening that Kundalini energy, you become more open to different experiences, and like there are traumas and stuff associated, so it's not like you have to slowly transition into it. But yeah, once you like start opening up your third eye, which is like the spirit version, and your crown chakra is like, I guess, being connected to everything as a whole. But yeah, and you start to realize, like, the more I grow up, whether it's related to that kind of stuff or not, I realize my priorities start shifting. From when I was very young up until now, it's crazy how much, and you can kind of relate it to those type of energy levels, like where you are and how you feel. And
even just like, you know, have you heard of like the different vibrations, like the number?
Like frequency wise? Yeah.
So basically, like love is the highest vibration, right? But then I think it's like like 500. Is that it?
I'm not familiar with
at that level?
The exact vibration, but I'm familiar with, like, have you heard of binaural beats?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Like I see them on YouTube all the time. Like
yeah,
300
so apparently like for that there's like alpha, delta, omega, like the different vibrations of your brain, like specific frequencies that it. And you wear headphones and it'll play one frequency in your left earbud and then one in your right, and your brain kind of matches to a specific frequency. And there actually are binaural beats for, I guess, opening your chakras, or like meditation. Really, I used to do them when I used to practice lucid dreaming. And then what it would do is it kind of tricks your brain into thinking that you're in a specific state of mind, when in reality you're trying to trick it and stay awake while you slip into sleep. Sleep land.
I've done like a few of them, like the YouTube ones for sometimes when it's like for stress, right? And just like relaxation. I find it works. Like
no, it's actually pretty interesting. I've tried like some of the creativity ones, like when I'm at work and like my mind is all over the place. It's like focus and creativity, and whether it's placebo or whatnot, like I get focused.
I like placebo.
No,
like,
but the thing, if placebo works, then it's like,
then it works.
Then it works, right?
Exactly.
Which is pretty interesting. So if you can reach a point where you just become a believer in everything and you're just naively floating, I guess it will benefit you in a way.
But it's kind of like the whole thing about like affirmations too and stuff like that, where it's like, or like even like fake it till you make it, right? I feel like there is some truth about it. Yeah, if you believe it enough, if you tell yourself, you know, if you remind yourself every day, it kind of like becomes reality. And I think even for me that relates too, because when I started kind of with like starting my business, I never thought that I could be like at this point where I am, like looking back now, and not to say that I have achieved a lot, but just to be able to have launched a brand and to have done it, like I 2-3 years ago I probably thought this would not have happened like this soon. I probably would have thought, oh, maybe like in 10 years I would do it, you know. But I think I did a lot of like self-development and like personal development work in the last like 3 years, 2-3 years, and I think it has some truth. Like if you like envision your highest self and see where that person is at and how they would act in every day, like how they would talk to people or what they would be doing, and just kind of like visualize yourself as that person and act as that person like today, then you're kind of already there, like you're halfway there, you know.
Those type of meditations are very beneficial as well, and I feel like a lot of successful people do project themselves in future scenarios where they have already attained all that they want, and like you said, subconsciously you kind of mimic the behavior of that person that's already successful, which is and nowadays it's hard to do, but like I guess in the mornings and before bed, like dedicating maybe 5 or 10 minutes to like journaling or like meditating in terms of what you want, you get a clearer understanding of what it is you want and why.
Yeah, for sure. I think I don't know if I've talked to you about like meditation journaling.
I know. I was about to ask you, do you do anything in regards to meditation?
This is like my favorite topic to talk about. But yeah, I think like journaling especially, and especially like manifestation journaling is something that is crazy and it works. And
so manifestation in regards to it, like just as an example, what would you write in your journal?
Yeah, so for example, I had one like for my business, and I wrote one I think 2 years ago, and I recently read back on it, and when I read back on it, everything happened the way that I wrote it out, which is crazy. But I think that's a really good exercise, especially if you need help mindset wise, is like journaling, and even just like visualization, and like visualizing where you want to be. And I think a really good prompt is to start like journaling with, I am so grateful and happy that ... you know, this has happened. Or you can even do like, you know, the year is 2025 and I've started blah blah, you know, things like that, just to get your mind going, and to write everything in extreme detail. And a lot of my friends actually have asked me about this, and it's something that I always kind of have a conversation about, because it's personally worked for me in so many areas of my life. But I feel like it's something that it doesn't cost anything to do. You can do it every night, and it really helps like kind of reprogram your mind into that like growth mindset and achieving your dream, whatever it may be.
Reprogramming of the mind. No, that's essentially it, right? Yeah. Because like when you're journaling everything, you're literally telling your subconscious, it's like, hey, whatever autopilot mechanism is in there that's working in the background, this is what I want, like make it happen, let's go. And so then that's how it works like that. Does. And I agree with you 100%. Even when it comes to everything that I've done, I've journaled it at one point, and like made a plan, or like just been like, okay, what are the steps needed, and then that kind of reinforces that program in your subconscious or your psyche. And then some people can say, oh, the universe is aligning. It's like, but on a deeper level, it's like your mind is being programmed in a way where it's like, it's while you're sleeping or while you're doing other things, you're kind of making decisions that will cater towards what you've planned, essentially.
And I think just the act of writing it, like that is such a small step, but it really, it does so much. And it's like, it's kind of like, you know, writing it into existence and basically once you put it into writing, it's like one small step towards whatever you want to accomplish.
Even expressing emotions or feelings, it's actually crazy how much relief you can attain from just writing something down.
Yeah, for sure.
Like there were times in my life where I would do a lot of breathing exercises and stuff like that, and on my way home from work or whatever, I just, on my phone, I typed down just how I felt, how my day went. And then it's almost as if your mind is getting rid of those things or whatever, even if it's gratefulness, appreciation, or whatever negative stuff. And then you stop thinking about those things on loop, because it's almost as if you've put it out, you've released it, and you're done with it, and you actually feel great afterwards.
It's kind of, I feel like the same thing too about like feeling emotion and feeling pain too. I think once you feel the pain and you're able to like feel it, you can release it, and then it's gone type of thing. Whereas like I feel like, especially when it comes to pain, I think if you don't feel it and you kind of just suppress it and like put it in the back of your mind, kind of distract yourself, then it's always kind of there. It's always
going to be there, yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like you can't truly move on if you don't feel it and release it, you know.
Yeah, so bioenergetic stretching and stuff like that, that's what I got into due to that, because I realized that I was suppressing all of my emotion. And it's essentially, Carl Jung goes into this, Elliot Hall's one of the guys I look up to. Yeah. And they talk about how emotions and feelings, if you don't release them, for men especially, we suppress everything. It manifests into like armor, like neuromuscular armor, right? Your nervous system and everything kind of goes into lockdown mode. And then you won't be able to laugh properly. You won't be able to, you become a stone almost, because your nervous system is like, we're creating all of these boundaries and calluses. However, you reach a point where you might break one day, and if you do, it leads to like a panic attack or a meltdown or
what's that called again?
So bioenergetics. And then it's just stretching in a way where you're releasing that tension, and usually like in our the front of our bodies, for example, when your shoulders, where you're always holding that tense, like opening up your belly so you can breathe deeper, like all the fascia and everything like that, like stretching that out. But no, it's very important, right? Really and that's why, like, for example, when people do like heavy breath work or like specific stretching, like sometimes these emotions arise. It's like, where is that coming from? And it's almost as if our fascia and our muscle or the tissue, there's like information there, almost like trauma that manifests in your nervous system, essentially, right? So like, so for example, like, let's say you're in a situation where there's someone that you don't like, or they've caused you harm in the past. What is your body going to do as soon as they come into the room? You kind of tense up, right? Yeah. So imagine you don't release that, and over years that same person is in your life. Like, what's going to happen as a result? Your body and your physiology and the chemicals and the hormones, and it's like a whole chain reaction of things that lead up to a spiral of going out of control, right? So there needs to be a way of like going back to ground zero through it's like mental and like physical hygiene almost, right?
That's so interesting.
But it is interesting, right? And that's why yoga is so prominent in today's age, day and age, breath work, all that kind of stuff, because people are realizing that all these practices, you are releasing a lot of tension and trauma, because we're stepping out of that culture where it's like everything is okay, like just keep it to yourself, like don't worry, right? And it depends on which culture you're into. It's always practiced in a way where it's like, oh, back home we didn't have any of these problems. It's like things were much worse. It's like, but at the same time, this mental toxicity and like stuff like that is almost worse than like being in a environment where things are
where you have to like survive.
Where you have to survive, right? It's bad, but at the same time, being in being tortured mentally and feeling trapped in your head is like way worse in a way than, in a sense, than actual environmental circumstances.
I definitely think that too, and I think just from our parents too, who were not born, and your parents were not born
in Western society.
Exactly, and I think having parents like just being first generation, like Canadian, like Asian, for me, Asian Canadian, right, and being born here in Canada and grown up here in Canada, like we don't have the same struggles as our parents did, and like as grateful and thankful I am for the life that they've given us here, like coming to Canada. Like I feel that they sometimes, like there's trauma there is what I'm trying to say, and how they grew up and how they were raised is very different from how we are raised, born here in Canada and have like the opportunities that we have. But that being said, I think a lot of it has to do with the trauma that is passed down from generation to generation that they didn't even know exist, and now it's passed on to us in a way inherently, because
and we have to suffer as a result, right?
But just even like small things, like behavioral things that they have kind of passed down generation to generation. I think sometimes it passes along to us now, and we're just kind of realizing like the effect that it's had on us, and it's kind of, I think we're at a good point where we can actually heal some of those traumas ourselves through, meditation and self-growth, and like healing them through other means that we have access to.
Right, our generation is a lot more open-minded in that regard, where we're open, whereas for them there's probably very like stay on the path, don't stray.
Like for me, my parents, like mental health was in Asian countries sometimes it's not even acknowledged.
Yeah, same with us.
Exactly. And I think right now we have the tools to be able to help ourselves, and kind of get rid of those traumas that have been in place before our generations, So I think it's really cool that we're in that position.
Back to the subject of meditation.
Yes.
Do you do any meditation?
Yes.
What kind of meditation do you do?
I do a bunch. So I have a few apps. We did a meditation earlier.
Right, breath work.
But breath work. I think you're the person who showed me breath work. And is it called dragon breathing? Yeah,
there's like cello breath, dragon breath, fire breath.
So, but the one I normally do is Calm. So I use an app called Calm. So I usually meditate every day. before, like, first thing in the morning. I'll be in bed and I'll meditate, even if it's 10 minutes, even if I'm in a rush, because I feel like it really just helps reset
Cleans
everything.
the slate.
Exactly. Calms all the, like, the noise and everything, and helps you start your day really clear. And yeah, I think for me, it's also meditation journaling because I'm a writer. Like, I've always been a writer. I studied, English communication. I write, and it's part of, I think, a strong part of who I am. So I love to write, and I think even just putting on a really good playlist and journaling, like lighting a candle, like journaling, and that is a form of meditation, So I do think it's a really good way. And I don't know if you've done the 5-minute journal before.
5-minute journal?
Yeah.
I've done numerous types of journals. Like, I have a stoic journal. I've just done freestyle journaling. 5-minute journal. What does that consist of?
So it basically is kind of like a gratitude journal. Okay. And every day you write, I think it's 3 things that you're grateful for. And then there's a part where you can write an affirmation. So you can write whatever speaks to you, and then at the end of the night you write another 3 things that you're grateful for. So
got it. Yeah, the stoic journal is kind of like that, where it'll ask you a question, but it's in regards to being appreciative, and at the end of the day it'll be like, okay, what did you learn today, and how can you implement that?
I love stoicism, by the way.
I try to practice.
Are you a Tim Ferriss man?
Tim Ferriss?
Yeah.
When I was younger, I used to be very into him, but a lot of people that I kind of, I guess, look up to in a sense, they have that very stoic mindset. It's like leadership qualities where you don't get too associated with your emotions, and you realize that everything passes while becoming the strongest version of yourself.
Book coming 2025.
So, but cool. In regards to books, what kind of books you reading?
A lot of personal development.
Self-help, personal development.
Yeah, I think those are the types of books that I really, really enjoy these days. I think also you've given me so many good recommendations, and even on the more spiritual side, I think I was telling you before that you're the first person who recommended Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yeah, the 4 Agreements.
And I think that was an awesome book, and I think also his Mastery of Love. Was really good too. So
my top 3 recommendations for anybody that's interested is always The Mastery of Love, the 4 Agreements. Those are both by Don Miguel Ruiz, and then The Power of Now.
Yes, Power of Now.
Present.
Do you want to go? Eckhart Tolle is coming
now. I'd be down to go see him, but have you heard how he speaks?
No.
He speaks like this because he is very present.
Because he's Zen.
Yes.
I'm down to experience.
I listened to The Power of Now audio book format the first time, and that's how he spoke.
And you fell asleep with the
I loved it at that.
You're like, I didn't get through it.
Yeah, I loved it.
I was asleep.
Like, that was the one, like, I had one profound experience, actually, when I was listening to that audiobook, because I was in a point in my life where career and everything was going well, but in terms of slowly opening up to being more, like, I was kind of breaking down, like, human 101 traits. I'm like, okay, there's breath work stuff. I'm like, all right. And I stumbled upon The Power of Now, and then the experience I had, I was at Union Station. I was standing listening to the book, and in the beginning, I think it was like the 2nd chapter, he talks about, all right, do this exercise where you kind of become aware of your surroundings, observe things without no mind, like just look without any thoughts associated with it. And then I remember standing there and looking up at the buildings and like trying not to think of anything, or like not putting any effort and just observing things. And I was able to perceive so much more, and I got that feeling of when I was a child almost, where I had nothing to worry about, no responsibilities, just living life for the sake of living. And I got emotional in that state. Like, and then I was like, what the? And then I kind of slipped back into my headspace, like that neurotic chatter, the noise starts to surface again, and I was like, what the fuck was that?
Wow.
And so this was like 6-7 years ago, right? And then that happened to me, and as a result, that's why I recommend this book to so many people. Because especially when people are very ungrounded or not awake and like kind of autopilot through life, if they're open to it, of course, I'll be like, yo, check this book out. And then after they read it, they're like, holy shit. Because it all boils down to, like, I preach this a lot in like we probably mentioned it in another podcast as well, but the present moment and the now is like essentially all that there is.
Yeah.
So every decision that you make, or like whatever choices, or even your projections of what you want to be in the future, whatever, you're always going to be in the present moment. So never project and be like, oh, I can't wait until this moment. It's like, no, just be happy in this moment. That moment will come.
Yeah.
But you're always going to be in this state of awareness, in the current present.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, what's the point of projecting?
Exactly.
And when you're younger too, you're more prone to that kind of stuff. It's like, let's say, for example, like, let's say I book a vacation, I'm excited for it, whatever. If I'm not present and ungrounded, this is, I guess, in like more of a positive life. Every day is going to become a means to an end until that day comes. That day is going to come. I'm still going to be programmed in that type where I won't be able to enjoy the vacation itself. Right?
You're like focused on.
Yeah, it's like more of like projecting into the future, because we're kind of used to that, right? We're kind of used to like, oh, things are going to be better when this happens. Things are going to be better when this happens.
Yeah.
Where it's like, there's no things are going to be better because the future doesn't exist in a way. So it's like, just be loving, genuine, kind, enjoy the present moment, be appreciative of what you have, and like be grateful, and like watch how your life kind of shifts in a positive fashion.
Yeah, and I think that's all we have, right? Because I feel like the past is just a story, essentially, and the future, it hasn't happened.
Right.
So.
And there's nothing wrong with the past or the future in terms of like I guess reflecting on it, but being caught up in a sense where you're neurotic about it and you're not present at all. Like I know some people where, like, I have conversations with them and I can tell there's like so much going on, they're not even there. And then, or like family members, like parents, where they've suffered so much or whatever, and they're just hardwired in that way where they're constantly thinking about everything, and creativity essentially, and like love and kindness and all that kind of stuff. Laughter stems from being in the moment, right? If I'm worrying about what happened yesterday and like projecting into what happens tomorrow, like I won't be able to like joke around and laugh, or else it's gonna be like fake. Or,
But I also think as long as you're living like from your sole purpose, you know.
So a lot of people, they don't even know what their sole purpose is, but if you keep thinking about it, you won't be able to find it.
But I think sole purpose is just whatever feels good, right?
Yeah, no,
like you have
to surrender, right? Like as soon as you surrender and you do what you truly enjoy and what you're kind of passionate about, and some people are like, I don't know what I'm passionate about. Yeah. It's like, let go. Yeah. See what happens. Yeah. You're gonna find that thing.
Yeah, and I think back to that too, because I experienced that too, where I felt, for a long time, I felt I was really like lost career-wise because I had so many passions that I didn't know which to pursue. And like I wanted to do writing, I wanted to do art, like makeup, and I wanted to do like business stuff, and but I also really liked doing sales. So it was really, and I went to grad school, like I did my master's degree, and I was working as a research assistant during that time, and I felt like I had to commit to one career and commit to like one purpose. But I feel like it's totally not that way. And I think whenever someone asks me like, oh, how did you like find your passion or what you love to do, I think it's just trial and error, right? And you have to just do it and try the different routes, because that's the only way that you're going to find out whether you like something or not.
And it won't be fun either. Like people assume that when I find that thing that I'm passionate about, everything's going to be blessed. It's like, no, hard work, dedication, willpower, discipline, those are all like huge skills that you need to work on, and if you don't have those skills, you have to dive into that. So it's like going down layer by layer in terms of what's at the core, working on those things. So it's like, what does it take to launch a business or a company? Okay, it takes a lot of willpower and discipline. Do you have that willpower and discipline? No. Okay, what does it take to become more disciplined and have willpower? Okay, I need to become more mindful and present, maybe meditate. And then this slow progression leads to all of these things kind of falling in place, right? Whereas if I'm sitting always stressing and like worrying and in an anxious state of mind, I'm not going to get anywhere.
It's true. Yeah, you just got to like breathe.
Yeah, so.
And breathe through it.
I feel like we covered a lot of subjects.
Yeah, what time is it?
Got to know you on a deeper level. But no, awesome stuff. I appreciate your time.
Of course.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We're probably gonna have many more podcasts down the line as we grow and evolve
this
in
is
our
really
life.
fun.
Yeah, no, this is just these are our normal everyday conversations.
Yeah, just recorded now.
And now it's recorded for other people to sit on and be like, I never thought of that way.
Yeah.
But
and I love listening to podcasts, so I
so hopefully people enjoy this as long as it impacts even one person or 0.5 person. That's all that matters.
Very true.
All right. Thank you so much.
All
right. Peace.
Thanks for having me.